Chapter 22 Snow White's Secret. The entire party traveled back to the northern kingdom in silence. The pattering of the horses' hooves on the road was the only sound the group made. The whole world seemed to have sighed with relief now that the evil queen was gone. Goldilocks was given permission to ride Porridge back into the kingdom, but her hands and feet were wrapped in chains. An annoyed expression was frozen on her face. Jack faithfully walked by her side the entire trip, with his hand on top of the manacles around hers. Red Riding Hood watched them from afar, looking away only when someone noticed her staring at the couple. She had never experienced so many emotions at once. She remained silent and still praying that the hurt would go away. The twins were especially quiet during the journey. After everything that they'd witnessed, it was so hard to find words to express what they were thinking and feeling. Their thoughts were filled with the evil queen's story. They were haunted by images of her holding the body of a man whom she had loved her entire life before being consumed by the mirror. And while they were saddened by her tale, they were even more disappointed that the wishing spell was gone. They feared how long it would take for them to discover another way home. What obstacles and dangers would they have to endure when and if they found an alternative? What would they do in the meantime? Where would they live? "I'm so sorry, children," Froggy said as they went. "I felt completely responsible. Had I just let you use the wishing spell instead of persuading you to come with me, none of this would have happened." "It isn't your fault, Froggy," Alex said. "The wolves would have gotten to us sooner or later." "Actually, this whole thing is your fault," Connor said. "If you hadn't told us about the wishing spell, none of this would have happened in the first place. We would have never been chased by wolves, kidnapped by trolls, or targeted by the evil queen." Froggy lowered his head. The guilt was heavy, and it weighed him down. Alex looked like she was about to punch Connor in the face. "But," Connor said with a big cheesy smile, "you did save our lives like 3 times, so I think that makes up for it." Froggy chuckled. "You're more than welcome to live with me," he said. "I'll help you find another way home. I promise you." The twins nodded and smiled at him. It was comforting to know they had a place to live, even if it was just a hole in the ground. They traveled for a day and a half before they finally reached Swan Lake and arrived at Snow White's palace. Red Riding Hood seemed intimidated by a palace so regal and large. "My castle is going to look just like this when it's finished," she told everyone around her, but no one seemed interested. The soldiers immediately took hold of Goldilocks and escorted her to the dungeon. "Wait a minute, you can't just throw her into captivity without a trial," Jack said. "For her sake, I hope she never gets a trial," a soldier said. "Go home, Jack," Goldilocks said. "With good behavior, they should let me out in a few decades." Jack followed them anyway, protesting the entire time, but even he knew there was nothing he could do. "Come with me," Sir Grant said to the twins. "We'll find the queen." The twins, Red and Froggy, followed the soldiers into the palace. They went up the staircase to the 3rd floor and down the hall to the door of what must have been the real entrance into the storage chamber. Grant knocked on the door. "Your Majesty, it's Sir Grant. Are you in there?" he said. "Yes, please come in," Snow White said from inside. They all followed Sir Grant inside. The room looked completely different. All the furniture had been uncovered and the paintings had been placed on the walls. It looked like an actual normal room again. "What are you two doing here?" Snow White asked. She was putting the portrait of the huntsman back on the wall. For the past couple of days, she had been restoring the room by herself. "Your Majesty," Sir Grant said, lowering his helmet, "we found your stepmother hiding in a castle in the northeast sleeping kingdom." "And?" Snow White asked, bracing herself for the news. "She's dead," Grant informed her. Snow White's face became paler, which the twins hadn't thought was possible. She sat down on the platform in the back of the room. She didn't cry, but anyone could tell it was difficult news to process. How did it happen? Snow White asked. Grant looked down at the twins. I wasn't there, but they saw it happen, he said. She didn't die, per se, Alex said, trying to put it delicately. The castle was falling apart, and her mirror, well, it fell on top of her and swallowed her like a bug. Boom! And then she disappeared, Connor said excitedly. It was crazy. There was nothing left. Alex gave her brother a dirty look. Well, not necessarily, she said. Alex reached into her bag and pulled out the heart of stone. Snow White gasped upon seeing it. Alex walked across the room and handed Snow White her stepmother's heart. This was left behind, Alex said. I think you should have it. Snow White looked down at the stone, and tears spilled out of her eyes. Sir Grant, I'd like to be alone with the children, Snow White said. Please arrange rooms for the others if they would like to stay, she said, nodding to Red and Froggy. Why, thank you, Your Majesty, Froggy said, and bowed. That's very nice, thank you, Red said. Maybe just until my palace is done being rebuilt, I'm putting in a room just like this one. Sir Grant ushered them out of the chamber before Red could finish. The twins were left alone with Snow White. She was very quiet for the first few minutes. All she could do was stare at the stone. I guess you didn't listen to my advice then, Snow White said. We listened, Connor said. We just ignored it. Do you know what this is? Snow White asked them, holding up the heart of stone. Yes, Alex told her. It's her heart. She told us all about it and about her life before she was, well, the evil queen. It was one heck of a story, too, Connor said. Did you know that guy in her magic mirror was actually her long-lost boyfriend? Yes, I did, Snow White said. That's why I helped her escape. Both of the twins gasped and shook their heads in disbelief. The twins couldn't have heard her correctly. What? Alex asked. You helped her escape? No way, Connor said. Yes, Snow White said. She showed no remorse with her confession. I sat in her cell for hours and listened to her story. It broke my heart. So in a final attempt to please her, I arranged for her and her mirror to be taken up the river and into the next kingdom so she could continue her work. The twins couldn't believe it. They wanted to ask so many questions, but only grunts and light stutters came out of their mouths. All these years, I wondered why she didn't love me. And then I finally understood it. It was because she couldn't, Snow White said. I thought a heart as broken as hers was punishment enough for her crimes against me. Did she free him then? She did, Alex said, but unfortunately it was too late. He died in her arms.